we are live. Greetings, everyone. We are here with another issue of Comics with Curmudgeons. And it should be an interesting little conversation tonight. We got a couple things that have happened recently that we'll bring up and discuss. But other than that, it'll just be us shooting the shit about the wacky industry that is the comic industry. Tonight, I'm joined by my stalwart companion who's been around since I started doing this. That would be my good friend here, Doc. Doc, how's it going?
What is up, brother?
This is two shows that you've been around since the beginning for.
I know. Aficionados and this. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody bugs me when they're starting their new show and they're like, hey, come on. I'm like, I don't draw any people. I don't know why I'm here.
Well, I just like your takes. You had no problems, telling people to go shit in a hat.
Well, yes. Mostly because I long past gave up the point of giving a shit. So it's that Gen Xer in me. It's just like, nope, don't give a fuck.
That's fair.
And we are also joined, and he's making his second appearance on the show. And I'm grateful for him coming on the last time. And this time, the one, the only, the man with the coolest name in the comics fandom, MVP, Max Von Priestley. How you doing, bud?
Oh, dude, you're too kind. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's always funny. I think the first time I was on Aficionados, someone had equated my name to like that of Victor Von Doom.
Yeah.
They're like, it's an excellent villain name, But yeah, no, it's a pleasure to be here, man. It's always fun to talk with you guys because streams like this are always very reminiscent of just comic shop talks, and so that to me is like ultimately one of the best things about this platform is just getting to chill with you guys and hang and talk about some of the most recent events. So
yeah, and we will also be working towards probably sometime next month when it's getting closer to my birthday, the comics and cocktail stream idea we had mentioned the last time.
Okay.
I'll have some time off and make my life a little easier and not having to get up the next day going to work going, oh God, what was I thinking? I am too old for this shit.
I like that idea though. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've had a couple entertaining things happen this week in the world of comic books, such as Kamala Khan getting whacked.
I love it.
This is true. Yeah.
I mean, it does. I don't care either way since I really don't care about modern comics, but it just surprised me that they decided to do her.
Phrasing. But she's underage, sir. No. I do kind of love the fact that they're like, all right, and now we don't even have a book for her. So let's kill her in a book where she might get the rub from somebody else. Because that's what it feels like.
Well, you know what they're going to do.
Oh, yeah. They're going to resurrect her so that they can align her to being a mutant in the MCU.
Yeah. I mean, that's the who was it? I think it was Gabe that was saying on the last show that they like there's a reason why Zeb Wells has kind of done this because he also has a lot of Hollywood connections. Yeah. And so if they bring her back through Krakoa, which, no one's ever really dead on Krakoa, they can kind of bring her in as this new mutant, bring her back because even in her own show on the Disney Plus show, when they first introduced her, didn't they play the X-Men animated series song in the background? I don't know if you guys caught that, but
it was at the end of the show, that's like the last episode, like the post-credits stinger thing.
That's right. Yeah,
something like playing it real quietly
in our age brackets or comic fans would even recognize that music.
It is relatively iconic, especially since they're going to be doing the X-Men 97. Cartoon that's going to be on Disney Plus, and I think it's going to be starting sometime soon. That's a sequel to that original 92 show.
How do you guys feel about them doing because I think it's called X-Men 96 if I'm not mistaken.
I thought it was 97, but
I thought it was 97
or 97. Yeah, thank you. But yeah, what do you guys think about? Is that I've seen some of the producers and what they've been putting on Twitter, and already it sounds like a nightmare. They all have TDS pretty bad, but I mean, I don't know.
I feel like that's probably. I don't think they're going to be able to help themselves from going on one of those rants, at least in some episodes. Now, granted, I'm trying to give it. I'm trying to give it some like the benefit of the doubt to some degree, and
Wow,
I
okay.
guess the showrunner basically said, "Look, if you're not fans of the original, I don't want you working on this show."
Nice.
Now, that being said, that could just be what he's saying publicly, and behind the scenes, he's like, let's fuck over everything that everybody loved about this and turn it into our weird fanfic. So, I believe him about as far as I can throw anybody in Hollywood. So, we'll see. I mean, but
there's certain industries now that I have no faith in at all, and most of them are all in it. Like Hollywood, I don't care. I think I said the last time we were all together streaming, and the last movie I saw in the theater was Two Towers.
Oh wow, that's a good one to end on, though.
I'm a gamer, and the game industry just makes me want to choke a bitch. To be honest, they just keep making stupider and stupider and stupider decisions, and a lot of it is like what Activision did recently. They could actually see themselves getting sued over class action wise, because what they did recently was there were people out there who were making third-party servers to host older Call of Duty games.
Okay.
Because there is no privacy protection in the older games. So if you go online with, say, Call of Duty Black Ops 3, which isn't that old, you will lose your computer.
Like they'll just shut you down, or
they will hack you.
Oh Jesus!
Yes, and like a lot of people have been saying for years, do not play older Call of Duties online. People have ways of getting info that you don't want them having.
My God.
IP addresses, if they can get into your computer, who knows what kind of financial shit they can find, and so on. And the main reason why these companies were doing this was, A, the game's like 10 years old, give or take, and it's still a $60 game. Number one. And number two was this, and they were, since Activision doesn't seem to care about their customer safeties, other people took it upon themselves to deal with it, and Activision came along and shut them all down. And they're honest to God, I know what their train of thought is. Well, if we do this, and people will go play the new game. Not if you keep fucking it up.
No, they'll just stop playing a game.
Yes.
You know what's interesting is Games Workshop did this a couple of years back. Games Workshop is the company that produces all the Warhammer stuff. And you guys may have heard of the video series on YouTube called Astartes. And it was this independent dude who was an incredible programmer and designer. And he made these little short, couple second clips that he put all together into this larger story of Space Marines invading a space Hulk and like all this stuff. And it was brilliantly done, and it's really, really gorgeous. Games Workshop shut his YouTube channel.
Buddy showed me that video, and it was impressive. And he had everything so perfect. You got the feeling that the Space Marines, as a whole, were badass, but even the individuals were like, no, you don't fuck with these people.
It was like every Games Workshop and like Space Marine Warhammer fan that watched those were like, this is the most accurate thing we've seen ever from an animated, series, if you want to call it that. And Games Workshop shut his YouTube down. They took his videos off. They removed all his stuff. They took his revenue. Like, they just crushed him. And they said, listen, you can either live with the L or you can come work for us. And then everyone will come watch your stuff on our platform. So they've got him working for them now. So he's on there.
They gave him the option to do that.
True.
A lot of companies, will just, Activision, as far as I know, hasn't offered any of these people like, hey, why don't you come help us with this then?
There you go. That's
but they haven't. It's just cease and desist letters all around.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like most corporations these days, mostly because hiring the guys that make you look bad makes you look worse.
Not always, though.
No. I mean, that's their logic. That's their
because
logic.
case in point, I don't know how much of a gamer you guys are. If you're familiar with the game Counter-Strike,
I know it exists.
it started off as a mod for the original Half-Life, and now it's its own separate game and one of the highest, as far as terms of popularity, competitive games, because there is no bullshit to it. And the reason why that happened was Valve came along and said, "Hey, we want to hire you." So this isn't a mod anymore, but this is its own full thing. They've done that with a few people. Same with a game called Dota 2, Defense of the Ancients.
Yeah.
Started off as a mod for Warcraft 3.
Yeah, I mean,
And what's even funnier is Blizzard tried preventing that from happening again, and it bit them in the ass. When they re-released Warcraft 3 as a remaster, they still had, make your own custom games. But anything you made, they owned.
It belonged to them.
It belonged to them. So if something came along that was stupidly popular, as the original Dota was as a mod, they would have the rights to it and they could capitalize on it.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's about par for the course with any of these companies anymore. It's everything as they didn't know how to protect. I guess I can look at it from they didn't know exactly how to protect themselves in a digital world.
Well, at the time too, when that happened way back in the day,
they couldn't envision
no one really knew how insane Dota would become.
Well, and they didn't realize how creative people could be with modding things, with changing things, and with getting around what they were doing. They thought, okay, well, you can do a little bit, but nothing's going to be bigger than what we're actually building.
Yeah, it's funny how that's changed. That's the complete opposite of things.
I mean,
I've been modding PC games as soon as as long as I've been known about it. A couple of things I've done lately is there's a mod setup out there that links Fallout 3 and New Vegas together. You literally hop in a train in one of the games and you end up in the other game.
Oh, that's actually kind of cool.
Yeah. A big Elden Ring mod came out that it's a complete overhaul. Adds, multiple hundreds of things, items, monsters, bosses, spells, weapons, the whole nine, and mechanics.
What we actually need though is a mod of Mist that lets you actually know what the fuck to do.
Yeah,
and to get past like the first thing that you have to do, and not just wander about an island for like 11 days until you finally go, this game's fucking stupid.
Knock the stool of pretentiousness out from underneath them.
Yes.
But yeah, so again, back to the Miss Marvel thing. It just kind of surprises me that they chose her to be the one that got killed. I mean, we don't, as of now, as far as I'm aware, people don't know exactly how it happens. But
does it matter?
No, not real. Well, to a small degree, yes, because that could turn around and determine where they're going with it. Although we all have a pretty good idea, and I'm pretty sure we're all right. But it depends. Are they trying to do something to actually put a crack into Peter Parker against that shows him as fallible and has his own, or are they doing it again in a way that, oh no, Peter Parker is the guy we beat up on constantly. That's his job in the Marvel universe, is to be the punching bag. Peter Parker hasn't been happy since when? Doc, you could probably have a better idea of that than me.
Since
the 90s?
Since One More Day.
Yeah.
I mean, he was happy then.
The book came out this week, right? ASM 26. I thought that was this week. Or maybe
I think it's next week.
Oh my gosh, maybe you are right. Yeah.
Because I haven't seen it actually up yet. I feel like we would have seen on like Twitter a lot more screen caps from it than just the leak stuff, like with the description and the like the covers. I feel like we would see interior pages if it was actually out. And I haven't seen any. No, I haven't really been looking, but I haven't seen any.
And I remember looking at League of Comic Geeks, which I tend to do just to see what the recent releases are going to be for this week and next week. I do remember seeing that it's going to be out on like I think it's the 31st, so something like that next. So and yeah, so that's next Wednesday. So
okay, yeah. So now I feel like the only way that this is going to actually be anything that anybody gives a shit about is if it's the start of, as we discussed, I think last week on Aficionados, Peter Parker, dollar store, Dollar Tree knockoff character slaughterer, where he just goes around and kills all the
so in other words
characters.
Of Deadpool killing the Marvel universe, it's Spider-Man killing the Marvel variants.
Yes, old Punisher kills the Marvel universe. Yeah, it's Peter kills the Marvel variants. Exactly.
That would be funny. That would actually get me to buy some modern comic books.
Now, there apparently the whole thing, this is the leak, originated from a actual Marvel staffer.
Oh, absolutely.
I saw that today.
That tracks because there's no way that any retail shop, I think, would get those books that early, which means that it must have been someone who was either getting the prints and like, maybe looking over the copies
like the
or
proof
something.
Copies, yeah.
Exactly. And saw it and was like, I don't know,
Yeah, apparently it was a Marvel staffer that was throwing a temper tantrum, essentially.
Oh.
Because you're killing a young, popular, diverse character. And I believe that was the exact phrasing they used.
I don't that word they keep on using, popular. I really don't think it means what they think it means.
No, it doesn't. If she was popular, her book wouldn't be on like volume 9 in 10 years since she's come into existence.
You would think too that the Avengers game that she was the star of would have also done better.
And yeah,
didn't
the TV show.
Didn't Perch also do I thought Perch did a sales breakdown a couple years back of her entire run, because they restarted the run after they realized that sales were down. They did another issue number 1 and it spiked and then it went back down again.
Yeah,
but like anything, but man, I'd have to check and see, because I could have sworn it was him.
I do believe he did a sales breakdown. Here's the thing. It sold really well for like the first 12 issues of volume 1. The only thing with resaleability is the issues like that is still moving units is the first volume of the trade.
Mm-hmm.
None of the subsequent ones, none of the subsequent trades are moving any volume. They get people to buy volume 1 essentially through Scholastic.
Yeah,
but none of them follow up. Now, granted, volume 2 and 3 and up through whatever the hell volume they're at now are not in Scholastic, but the first 6 issues, that first 6-issue trade is in Scholastic, and it sells really well, but it never translates to ongoing customers.
And as my buddy Pope Metallicus the First put it in chat, hey, now Kamala Khan is popular compared to gonorrhea.
That's very good.
He's not wrong.
Yeah.
As he likes to say about me, he may be out of line, but he's right.
Yes. There's Kamala is just boring.
Yeah, overall as a character, she isn't a bad character, but she's got lame powers.
Yeah.
And she's got, like, Miles Morales has no defining moments.
Well,
and it feels like all the younger heroes that they've tried putting out, Kamala Khan, Miles Morales, Kate Bishop, the whole Young Avengers crew. What have they done to warrant anything in the Marvel universe other than existing and aping someone else's shtick?
It's also interesting to think about like just like how much they gave, like how much agency they gave that first series, because they were just like they almost tried to force people to
Mhm.
like it. And when you think about these characters like Wolverine, who had to be in a team book for years, and people were begging, "Hey, let's get a Wolverine series. Let's get a Wolverine series." And they gave him like a 4-issue miniseries just to see, because they weren't even sure,
And that 4-issue
But
miniseries is just so good.
and it's perfect, right? Yeah. Um, but yeah, it took years for us to even get Wolverine.
Yeah,
But
Wolverine number
Kamala,
1, the full, volume issue 1, volume 2. I was in school when that came out.
oh,
Yeah,
nice. Okay.
that was volume 2 was 87.
Yeah.
Okay.
Volume 1 was, I believe, 84.
Okay.
So they basically they put it out and they let it kind of sit there and see whether or not there was still demand for it. If the back issues were
Mhm.
going up, if it was a flash in the pan, and they waited and waited and waited, and then so they didn't even immediately capitalize on it.
Mhm.
Now they would have tried to immediately capitalize. Hell, they would have had a Wolverine series, an ongoing series planned before he appeared in Hulk 181.
Yeah.
Because they put the cart before the horse. They decide what will be popular instead of reacting to the market.
Well, now correct me if I'm wrong. Was it this Wolverine miniseries that had Kitty Pryde in it as well, or was that a separate?
That was
a separate.
correct. That was a Wolverine and Kid. It was titled Wolverine and Kitty Pryde, and it was a 6-issue series.
Now,
I have that.
That came out in between the original miniseries and volume 2, didn't it?
I believe so.
Because I think it was supposed to be
I'll have to
considered a
check
sequel
that.
to the original 4-part miniseries.
I recently
Tangentially related, anyways.
I recently read it, and yeah, I believe it was still mid 80s. So, and I think Doc, you said, yeah, the second volume was 87 or 88, something like
87.
that.
It launched
87.
in 87.
Okay,
Now,
with patch and everything.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I do like the 6-issue miniseries. It's not, it's not
It's
like
not
a work of
spectacular.
art. Yeah, but because
85. 84 to
85.
85.
Okay. And I mean, they did still have Wolverine in the X-Men book. So like you were still getting your, I guess, dose of Wolverine, but he just wasn't in his own thing. But yeah, if it were today, he would have had a whole Wolverine verse,
Yeah.
before he'd even have his own.
Well,
Before
they
they
tried doing
Well-
that in their own way with those quote unquote feral mutants.
Well, I
Mhm.
actually just checked it. I was wrong. Wolverine Volume 1 was in 82. So his first appearance was in 75. So he appeared in 74 or 75 for Hulk 181. And then in 75 was let's see.
Wait, Doc, 180 or 181?
It was
Okay.
74 for 181.
Okay, 74 for 181. 1975 was Giant Sized X-Men number 1. He doesn't get a solo mini series until 82. Then
7
in
years
84, he
Then
gets a second one that's a Kitty Pryde team up. And then in 87, he finally, so it's 5 years between the mini series and the ongoing.
And it was 5 years between his first appearance.
It was 7 years.
7 years, yeah.
So he doesn't get an ongoing until 12 years after his first appearance.
I kind of wondered what his initial popularity was like, though.
It was okay. But not enough to launch a solo series. So he was okay, but everybody was like, okay, it's just another kind of throwaway Hulk foe, and they expected him to show up again, but he didn't. And Len Wein took him over to X-Men when he was relaunching X-Men with Giant Sized, because Len wrote that one, and then he was going to be the editor on the ongoing Uncanny, and Claremont kind of took him and ran. Byrne was actually the bigger fan of Wolverine. Claremont wasn't. Byrne liked the character because they were both Canadian, and Byrne's a weird, he's like hardcore Canadian nationalist. Because actually, I believe Colossus was supposed to be kind of the standout hero of Uncanny. That was who Claremont wanted to be the standout. Well, Wolverine ended up the standout. So he kind of just ran with it.
It's funny too how a lot of those X-Men from Giant Size, none of them were popular enough outside of Wolverine to eventually get their own ongoing book. But how many of them actually got miniseries? Wolverine got 2. Didn't Storm end up with a miniseries at some point in the 80s or 90s?
She got a miniseries in like the very early 90s, another one in the late 90s.
Nightcrawler had a miniseries.
Yeah, Nightcrawler's had a couple of miniseries over the last 30 years.
I feel like we saw a lot of those characters too in the Marvel Comics Presents.
Yes.
Like I remember
2-in-1 and Team Up and stuff like that.
Yeah, because I remember Sam Keith did one with Nightcrawler and Wolverine in one of those Marvel Comics Presents, and he draws a really cool Nightcrawler. But it's it was more so those backup books where you could have 4 different stories and just flesh out some of these secondary, tertiary characters.
Yeah, he because Wolverine that was like the second, because Marvel Team Up was the Spider-Man Team Up. Marvel Comics Presents, after about issue 35, became the Wolverine Team Up book. Because if you ever noticed, Marvel Team Up was always Spider-Man and somebody.
Right. Marvel 2-in-1 was always Thing and somebody.
Yes, Marvel 2-in-1 was Thing and somebody. Marvel Comics Presents was Wolverine and somebody. But earlier in the Marvel Comics Presents run, it was different X-Men. Like there was Havoc, and he was there for a while. Cyclops they tried to make him do team up books, but neither of them were really unique enough with enough personality or enough of a draw to do it. There was a bunch of those characters that they'd give miniseries to periodically. There was the Archangel and Psylocke Crimson Dawn miniseries in the 90s. Archangel had his own miniseries in the 90s. Then in the early 2000s, they tried the Icons, which were basically a stream of 4-issue X-Men solo miniseries. There was a Rogue one, there was a Iceman one, there was a Cyclops one. I think they were going to do a Storm one, but that got canceled because all the rest of them had failed.
And it's funny, I wish I wish Marvel was smart enough to go back to, hey, we got an idea for a character and we're not sure if he'll catch on. Let's do a mini series with him, i.e. long shot. And if the miniseries does well, we can write him into whatever, other book that we were planning on putting him into. Because I think at the time, because that was what, mid to late 80s when they had the long shot miniseries. At that time, do you really think if that little miniseries didn't do a reasonable amount that they would have wrote him into the X-Men like they did?
Yeah, that was 85. Well, in fairness, though, I think that was Annie Nocenti.
And I believe you're right.
And Art Adams. I know Art Adams did the art, but
yeah.
Annie was a editor on the X-Men line.
Right.
So she was going to use long shots somewhere in the X line, kind of regardless.
I mean, I also think they got lucky and the character was relatively popular.
He was, but he wasn't popular enough to carry his own book.
No.
And that's what the miniseries determined. Hey, are we gonna have him as a solo character, or am I gonna just take him over with me into the X books?
And to be fair too, they did get a pretty good reoccurring villain out of Mojo.
Yeah. You got a handful of decent recurring characters, Spiral, Ricochet, Rita,
strong guy. Not that he was a great character, but
I think the X babies. There was a couple other characters that kind of came out of there. But regardless, there's, they did play with that a little bit, but they had like a primary plan and then like 3 or 4 backup plans, including drop the character entirely.
Right.
Well, that seems to not be on the table anymore.
Yeah, no.
I think that might be a bit of a problem. Recognizing when it's time to be like, this character just doesn't get over. Let's just forget about them. I mean, fuck, Marvel's been doing that for a long time. I mean, I compare a lot of what's going on now to, it's like if every character was Speedball in 1970, whatever. Because they tried to get Speedball over and they refused to give up on trying to get that character over.
I don't remember Speedball coming around until the 90s.
Well, that's because he kept failing every time. He first showed up in, I don't remember if it was Peter Parker Spider-Man, like Spectacular Spider-Man, or if it was in Amazing Spider-Man. I can't recall off the top of my head, but it was in the 70s, and they tried to get Speedball over. Oh, I think he was in an Spider-Man Annual.
First appearance of Spider-Man Annual number 22, 1988.
Yes.
Okay.
So in 88?
Yeah, 88.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, I thought it was about 10 years earlier than that. Okay. All right. Regardless, they tried to get him over for like 3 or 4 years until they stuck him on New Warriors.
Yeah.
And then whenever they let him into a team book, that seemed to be the key. But they stopped trying to force him as a solo character. You could kind of make a comparison to like the wrestling industry,
right?
With when a character doesn't get over, like oftentimes they'll start them out.
There's the
yep. It was the year after the Spider Wedding,
right?
Because 21 is the Spider Wedding, Annual 21. But they, they'll stick a wrestler in a tag team, and then they'll try to break up the tag team and try to get that guy over as a singles guy. And if it works, great. If it doesn't, they'll try possibly repackaging him or stick him in another tag team.
What do you guys think made, and maybe I missed this while I was gone, so sorry, but what do you guys think made Wolverine a character that people cared about and gave him that, no pun intended, that X factor, that like people actually wanted a solo series or wanted to learn about? Because like I think by looking at that, we can realize what happened with Kamala and why people didn't want to read her.
I think with hey, Yul, how's it going, buddy? Nice to see you in the chat. If you got time, as always, you're more than welcome on here, man. Just let me know and I can shoot you the link. My take, at least, and I could be wrong, as far as what made Wolverine kind of hit it, so to speak, was at the time he was one of the first gray heroes. Morally gray. Because at the time, in the in the mid 70s, you look at DC, every hero was a Boy Scout, not just Superman.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't have anybody who had that. This is pre-Lobo. it's even pre-Punisher, I think, by a year or two.
Yeah.
Not by much, but Daredevil was kind of campy at the time.
Yeah.
Not as bad as the Mark Waid run, but it was kind of campy. Batman was campy, still going off of
Neil
the Adam
hadn't,
West
Neil
show.
hadn't come back yet
to make Batman the way he
remember him now.
Yeah.
No, I personally, I do think that is a big factor. He was kind of the start of the anti-hero, especially in the 70s, where that was you had a lot of the
look at the movies that were becoming popular at the time.
Yeah, the kung fu movies, the
Death Wish
movies. Yeah.
The later era, the middle era of Dirty Harry movies.
The vigilante as the protagonist. So that is some of it, I think. But I think the other thing is, and I don't think you can discount this, the artist absolutely loved the character, legitimately loved him, and wanted to do everything in his power to make the guy look fucking cool every time he was on the page. Every time he was on the page, John Byrne went out of his way to try to make Wolverine the coolest character on that page.
He also tried that in Alpha Flight, which didn't work as well.
Well, that was years later.
Yeah.
So he legitimately, in a book that was going well, and you had a writer that gave him a unique voice, gave every one of the characters their own unique voice in Claremont. Now, Claremont might not have loved Logan at first.
He grew to, though.
He definitely grew to. And I think a lot of that had to do with Burns' absolute care for making there's something that can't be understated in creators that legitimately love their creations and want to make them awesome. Not to make everybody like them, but to make them awesome.
The other thing too, and this goes in line with what I was saying, it wasn't too many issues into him actually being in the X-Men where you actually saw him stitch a bunch of people up.
Oh yeah,
I made no bones about doing it when he did it to those Hellfire Club thugs.
Oh yeah, all the ones that ended up as the Reavers later,
and he had no bones about it. Up until that point, you never really saw a quote unquote superhero just slice and dice.
Well, you actually saw Thunderbird do it.
Yeah,
granted, it was only for 2 issues. 3.
Yeah.
I think what you guys, I echo for sure what you guys are saying. This kind of rough and gruff, Clint Eastwood, man with no name type of character that really kind of defined this new idea of what it looks like to be brutal, like unforgiving, kind of with chip on your shoulder. Is he morally black or white? He's kind of right in the middle, and people really just love that aspect of him. I think the other thing I would add, and this maybe came a little bit later, but people didn't know what his past was.
Right.
And so he was so complex that you could do anything with him. Was he a weapon? I don't know. Wait, so he's got a healing power? So does that mean that he's lived forever? So he's lived through a couple wars. What's his backstory? Who created him? Just so many great things that people had these questions about, which made him so much more interesting.
That feeling of mystique that the character had is you knew nothing other than what was from Hulk 181 on.
Yeah.
And that's it. There was no backstory, no nothing. Because even if you grab one of the older Marvel Universe books, they're talking about his background, and it's all pretty much just them saying over and over again, we don't know, or it's government
it might
this,
be this,
government that.
Yeah, there was a lot of speculation, and the fact that you could speculate in a lot of ways, you could add to that backstory without giving away much, and you could also retract whatever you've added. So the only thing you knew is what you actually saw happening in quote unquote real time. Anything with his past could be the truth or it could be a lie.
Yeah.
And especially when he had like false memory implants and all that other stuff that really you could get a lot of false starts on where his
And I found it
past
funny
was.
how they kind of led into talking a little bit about his past, and that again was through Alpha Flight.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
It's-
again, another Byrne creation.
It's kind of that correct me if this is the incorrect term, but it's like false narrator, where it's like whoever is giving you the story, you don't really know if that is the correct story or not,
Right.
because even Wolverine has trouble narrating his own thoughts and his own memories. So if he's telling the reader this is what he remembers, do we even know? And
Yeah.
that was kind of the cool thing about it, is like it's like, oh my gosh, there are so many deeper layers to him that
I
we
also think the way they went about softening his edge a little bit, and the characters that they used to do so, like Kitty Pryde and Kurt,
yeah.
those two
So
especially softened him up without turning him into a complete wuss or having like another character just sitting there like nagging him constantly. Like, like I could see Cyclops doing that, like, no, we don't do things like that. Yeah, Cyclops would do that once in a while, but most of the time it was either Kurt, Colossus, or Kitty
Mhm.
that turned around and said, brought out his more human side and, got him to put away, unless it was needed, his feral side.
Yeah.
He there's an issue that Mark Texiera drew, and I think it's like in the 60s, 60 to 70 something, 65 to 75, something like that, where spoilers, Silver Fox, he's remembering his, Silver Fox dying, and he gives her this like proper burial, and it is one of the most masculine books ever. And yet Wolverine has this emotional depth to him where he is mourning the loss of this woman who's Sabretooth. Thank you, Pope. I appreciate that, brother. And yeah, that's brain fart.
Unreliable. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and yeah, so he's putting to rest this woman who he loves, who Sabretooth brutally just, I mean, ripped to shreds. And they kind of let him go and do his own thing by himself because he is just so weighed down by the weight of this death and this loss. And like I said, it's not making him a puss. He doesn't like, he's not just wallowing and going, why me? He's just mourning as a man who has lost someone who's really means a lot to him. And it's a badass book, man. It's really cool. But like you said, he's not just surface level, you know, everything is perfect and I'm just a badass. It's like, no, man, he feels for these people, and he does have that other side to him. But these people bring it out, like Kitty and Silver Fox and Cyclops or Jean a lot. But
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's true. When left to his own devices, it kind of shows the he is who he is because of his loner nature.
mhm.
But whenever he gets around people that he can kind of let his guard down around, he can actually be he's a different person. He's a lot softer on the inside, um, with that just a gruff exterior. And but at the same time, you don't really know because they give you all these opportunities of how and all these examples and taught people that would show up from his past that would talk about how much of a giant horrible piece of shit he was.
Yeah.
And like you're like, well, was he always like that, or is that just the result of having his memory wiped? And again, you don't know. So, and which one is the real Logan? The one before his memory was wiped, or the one after?
Yeah. And I think that's why I like the Weapon X storyline so much, because he is kind of wrestling with like these three different aspects of his humanity, which is or his being, which is like humanity, animalistic, or weapon. You know, am I a human? Am I an animal? Or am I a weapon? Was I created just to be a weapon? And like that's the whole program. And he's like going through this psychosis and this like mushroom trip of an experiment. And it really kind of delves into that. And Barry Windsor Smith just freaking crushes it because you do kind of get that like psychedelic, like what is happening aspect of things, and he's just tortured mindlessly and endlessly. So yeah, it's I like that that kind of when that came out, that was something that was like added to him. It wasn't something that de what's the word I'm thinking of? What they're doing with deconstruction, right? Like it didn't deconstruct him. It almost like made him more interesting. Um, you know, they didn't do the bad dad trope, or they didn't make him a pathetic hero. It was just like, no, this is just a tortured dude.
You know, there's one issue of Uncanny that um that I absolutely love that kind of covers this as well, that also Barry Windsor Smith did. I think it was issue
Oh,
205.
okay.
And it was Wolverine in like a snowstorm in Japan, with Katie Powers and the Reavers chasing after her and chasing after him, and her, like Katie Powers, from Power Pack, like kind of trying to protect Wolverine because he's in like a near mindless state as he's getting just relentlessly hunted by Deathstrike and the Reavers. And Barry Windsor Smith did that one as well. And I feel like that was kind of the precursor story to what he would do, or like a, you know, it would be a sequel that came out before, so that I don't want to say that like the Wolverine Weapon X miniseries, like the 12 issues that he did in Marvel Comics Presents, was a prequel to this, but they're thematically connected is the only way I could really describe it, considering that the that issue of Uncanny came out like 5 or 6 years before the Wolverine Weapon X story.
I need to go back and reread that because I don't know if I remember that one, but I do love Deathstrike as one of his villains. She's great, and especially Barry Windsor Smith illustrating. Like I'm always there. So
I hold on.
Because
It had a really. Go ahead.
Oh, because they also tied it, Power Pack. You may have talked about it before, into the Mutant Massacre.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on. Let me see if I can share this.
And Fizz Chozo. Yeah, I agree, dude.
Yeah.
It's cool because you never really know, Sabretooth Logan's brother. I think they played around with like, or is he his dad? Is he like the father to Wolverine, or is he just like, or is he just another part of Weapon X with like him and Maverick and Sabretooth, so that there's also some. Oh yes, that's right. I do. Okay, yeah. God, that cover is something else, man.
Yeah, I know. I love that cover, and I love that whole
The story
issue.
and everything. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Good memory. God.
But Wolverine's definitely
they
seems. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say the whole Sabretooth thing. And even then, they never clearly defined it. I mean, they tried to in more recent years with he's I don't even remember what they ended up settling on in recent years. It's his half brother, I think.
Yeah, it's something. Yeah, it's something odd like that. Even like you said, even I'm not even sure. And I've tried to read as much Sabretooth and Wolverine that I can find. Even that fun little 4-issue miniseries of Sabretooth that they did in the early '90s. Another Mark Texiera, with like the painted covers.
Yeah,
those are really cool. Mystique's in that. But
I love the Sabretooth and Mystique miniseries.
Yeah, I am.
And then there was also the Sabretooth one shot that was called, I think, Into the Red Zone or something.
Oh, I don't know if I remember that one. Here, let me look.
It was when cool. I think when he escaped from the mansion after almost killing Psylocke.
Oh yeah, here it is. Nice.
So yeah, it was a good series. It was a good one shot. It was a good, fun little one shot.
Yeah. Looks like it's got a hollow foil cover, or one
yes,
of them.
Yes, it does. Yeah. It's got yep, hollow foil nice. Chromium cover.
Yeah, buddy.
Gary Frank did the pencils for it.
Oh, cool. Nice.
And I think Fabian Nicieza wrote it.
Nice. Pope, I'll agree with this too. The US VA is pretty brutal as well, but you know that as just as much, I think.
Yes, and Sabretooth and Mystique had Graydon Creed, the leader of the Friends of Humanity.
Oh, okay.
The one that Havoc killed as a member of the Brotherhood.
Oh my gosh.
Well, now that you
realize you're making me
now you kind of point out who his parents are. It's like, gee, no wonder he kind of hated mutants.
Yeah. Yeah. So oh yeah, so by the way, for all of the Destiny and Mystique are lovers forever. Yeah, she had a baby with a dude. So, like, yeah.
Yeah, you need that little Simpsons clip of Ralph
Nelson.
Or Nelson, yeah.
Yeah.
I always think of the gif of Ralph Wiggum in the back of the bus, and he's like, "We're in danger, or I'm in danger."
Yeah. I mean, it's just funny how Wolverine organically became the popular character that he was. They know what they did to accomplish that, but now they go out of their way to not do that.
Well, not only that, but not only letting Wolverine be how he became organically the popular character, but the writers and editors being able to stifle their own ego enough to not try to force upon the reader the character that they really want to get over.
Right.
And like accept it, like, hey, I didn't get what I wanted, but I'm having a great time doing what I am doing, and I'm going to keep giving them. Now, if you had that same situation now, the writer would kill Wolverine just to spite the people because they liked him more than Colossus, who was supposed to be the breakout character, according to the writer.
I also think that there's just not enough talent that even if they did have like some good idea or good character, that they would be able to raise them to that level or status of man, people really want to engage with this character, and he or she is a fan favorite. Even if they did have that, I'm not sure if they would have the talent pool that they were able to pull from in previous years to be able to write a character or have the passion to write a character like that. So yeah,
It also comes down to, I think, well, because if you look at it, none of the modern new characters, how many of them have really caught on? At best, Miles, and that's not even, you know, in he's at the top of the list of the new characters, but he's still at the bottom of the list for overall popularity in the Marvel continuity.
And he's still not accepted as Spider-Man,
Right.
except for by a very small portion of people. When people talk about Spider-Man,
They're
at
90%
no
of the
point,
time they're talking about Peter.
well, at no
It's not even higher than that.
Yeah, at no time do you have more than maybe 1% of the possible readership that would, immediately go to Miles. No, you have maybe 1%. 99% of the readership immediately springs to mind is Peter Parker.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing will change that. So Miles, the likelihood of him ever getting over enough to really matter requires him to have a different name. But I mean, you are right. How many of those characters did get over? I mean, fuck, remember Mosaic?
No.
I know they really wanted to get Punchline. Like, they gave Punchline her own series. They were putting Punchline in every Bat book and every Bat family book. They were really wanting, Punchline to be like the new Harley Quinn. That didn't take. Where is she now?
Yeah. I mean, I will always keep coming back to Mosaic. It was a character that was a knockoff of the other character that appeared, like the number 3 character in the NYX book. If anybody remembers that was the book that launched X-23 in the comics. Joe Quesada and Josh Middleton did it, and it was like ultra late, because Josh Middleton's very slow. But there was a character in there that their power was to basically possess other people and kind of quantum leap into them. And that's what Mosaic was, except for they tried to make this one, except for he was a black guy. I think the original one was a black guy also in New York, except for this one was now an Inhuman that was and like a pro basketball player sometimes.
I don't think I ever remember that, but that's wild. Yeah.
They before the character ever even came out, they announced an ongoing series with him. It failed so fucking hard.
Oh no.
Like, I don't know if I ever saw a single person pick up an issue out of it off the rack.
Oof.
I don't know if anyone did. It was such a massive flop that they completely memory hold the character before after they converted the ongoing into a mini series. Then they completely memory hold the character. He hasn't appeared since anywhere.
Yeah. Shoot. Yeah, I mean, that tracks though, because I don't even remember him.
Think about how many comic characters have been created over the decades and how many have really caught on. Because here's a way to put it kind of in perspective. One of Marvel's biggest characters in the 70s was Conan. Some of those stories had already been around 40, 50 years at that point.
Oh, yeah.
And if you think about it, anytime Conan doesn't do well in any form, it's because they're not writing or filming or making Conan. There's a certain aesthetic and personality that the character has. You deviate from those things, you're no longer doing Conan.
Yeah, you're just not doing Conan at that point, and they have a tendency of deviating from those characters.
As Poe put it, this is the same company that Swirl Girl would succeed. So
yeah. Okay, hold on.
I blame that on Deadpool. It's like, oh hey, we have a male irreverent humor character. Let's have one that's female. No, the character was a fucking joke. What are you gonna do? Bring back Shamrock next?
Yeah, that's what they'll do. Here, this is Mosaic.
Oh my god, I have literally never seen that in my entire life. That's wild.
Their memory hole job worked because
it really did. Yeah.
Here, that was one of the variant covers. Let me share this instead. This is the A cover.
And that was in the Marvel Now period, so that was definitely somewhat recent, especially with that trade dress.
This is I think this is Marvel. It was like the second phase of Marvel Now.
I was actively collecting during that phase too, because I remember going in every single week or every single month getting the Thor comic that was during that time, the Thor Now, or Marvel Now Thor Jason Aaron series. Yeah. Which I know, Doc, I won't mention Jason Aaron to you, but yeah, no, I remember being in the comic shop collecting Marvel Now stuff, and I don't ever remember this. So, shoot, yeah, they must have really done a good job and hit everyone with that like Men in Black little thingy that
well,
erases
that's the funny thing is,
memory.
everybody says comic companies especially can't admit when they're wrong. Oh no, they do. They just don't do it in the way normal people do.
Yeah, they just pretend it never happened.
Yeah.
And this is a straight up pretend it never happened thing. They have literally not talked about this character in like 9 years.
Wow.
It went from an ongoing series. I was wrong. It wasn't 6-issue miniseries. It ended up as an 8-issue miniseries. They just killed because I think it came out like 2 or 3 issues. Like they already had like 3 issues in the can before it even. Oh, this was 2016. Yeah.
Wow.
Oh yeah. So
7 years.
Oh, also another reason to, and I know that Perch, thinks that Jeffrey Thorne's a really nice guy and all, but yeah, this was him.
Oh, interesting.
This was his nice guy and not be a good writer all at the same time.
Yeah, this was him at Marvel before he ended up at DC. And yeah, everything Jeffrey Thorne touches also turns to shit. Oof. He's a bad writer. Sorry, Perch. I know he's your friend. He still doesn't make him a good writer.
Great guy, great person, but also be terrible at your chosen profession.
Yeah, it was. Oh God, it was a fucking disaster. And I know, like, I don't remember who created the character. To be honest, I know he showed up in. Oh God, Marvel apparently did an article about who is Mosaic in 2020. Like they were trying again to get
to bring him back.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if at the time they're like, hey, maybe this is a character we could throw on, make a show of for Disney Plus. And
oh no.
Well, 2020 that would have already been after the Inhumans debacle from like the TV show.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if people are going to look back and ever write articles about whatever happened to Children of the Atom, or whatever happened to Safe Space and Snowflake, and like, yeah,
I doubt it unless they're talking about what things not to do in the comic industry.
I mean,
because look how many. And this is not to sound morbid or dark or whatever, but think about how many human beings are on the planet, and think about how many of them are remembered after they've gone away, or passed on, or whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I just think
regardless
that,
of good, bad, or indifferent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You really have to do something special to leave a mark on society in anything, music, movies. Me and Doc grew up in the 80s. You know how many movies came out in the fucking 80s? And do you know how many are actually remembered by people?
although in fairness, the New Warriors, I think that's going to hold a special place in comic legend.
Mm-hmm.
That it didn't even come out.
Yeah, that it was so ridiculed at its like announcement that they never released the book, even though it was done. Like they just completely shelved that's going to end up as like the Roger Corman Fantastic Four of the Marvel 2020s like comic era. I feel like that's where it's going to end up.
I don't know, man. You're not giving Roger Corman enough credit. I would watch Roger Corman's Fantastic Four before I watch anything Phase 4 or Phase 5.
Oh, I don't disagree at all. I actually did watch that Roger Corman Fantastic Four
and I'm sure it was
movie.
more comic book accurate. Just
it is.
It was
budget.
It was, but my point was that it was created and then it was completely shelved, and it's only through like leaks later that anybody ever actually got out, and then it sat in, it was the stuff of Comic Con. What was the stuff of Comic Con bootleg VHS trading that really, it would show up along with like the overdubbed Godzilla movies, obscure like the Gen 13 animated movie that almost bankrupted Wildstorm because it never came out. The Wildcats Saturday morning cartoon that only had like 2 episodes aired and the rest of them never aired.
Were the ratings that bad for that? Because I don't even remember that.
It wasn't a good show, and everything about it was bad. Yes, it was way too schlocky. It tried to be the X-Men cartoon, except for without any of the cultural cachet. And it was bad. But like the Birds of Prey TV show, that was another one that ended up, you'd have to find it in at Comic Cons on like bootleg DVD, because there was no other way to find it. Oh god, Warren Ellis's Global Frequency, the pilot for that. So I have a feeling that the New Warriors is going to end up that kind of, I guess, niche nerd thing that will be kind of the thing of legend.
It will have its own legacy, if you want to call it that, its own place in comic book, history. But it will always be laughed at, unfortunately.
When you got people
fortunately
like Joe
or
Rogan, who isn't even really a comic book guy, sitting there mocking it as hard as a comic book fan would, that probably told them something like right then and there, like, oh, even normies are laughing at this.
Yeah, the internet gas kid. That was internet gas. Whose power is to Google things quickly. That's it.
When you have people that, because during that time, this was kind of like right when that, I think it was maybe a little bit after Gamergate or like during Gamergate, but like during that whole era, I think even people who were on that side of like, hey, we want SJW characters in our comic books, even they saw the New Warriors and they were like, this is awful. And so that's when you knew, like, ooh, okay, this is not good.
Well, I think it was 2019 or 2020 that they actually announced the new
was that?
Warriors. It was
Yeah.
that recent.
Oh my god!
Yeah, it really was that recent. Yeah, it was definitely
Wow.
within the past 4 years because I've only 4 to 5 years. I've only been at the place I've been working at for 4 or 5 years, and I remember these guys in the comics aficionado like shredding it multiple times.
Yeah, we've only had the show for a little over 3 years, and we roasted the ever loving shit out of that book. Like
That's
just
incredible.
just the preview and because remember that was one of the ones that made YouTube, between that and the president, and there was one other thing that all happened around the same time that got so downvoted on YouTube that YouTube started hiding the downvotes.
What a shocker.
And that was only within the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Dang, that is I don't know if it's just my sense of time and space, or if it's like really just that it feels like it was such a long time ago, but
I have the exact opposite problem. I'll be like, oh yeah, I remember when this album came out. It was only a couple of years ago, and then
you realize you're like,
decade.
oh
Shit.
yeah, oh my
Yeah.
god.
Oh no, I have that feeling all the time where I'm like, okay, last week was Christmas. 2 weeks ago was the previous Thanksgiving. 3 weeks ago was 1998.
Oh my god, yeah.
But the album thing is bad because then you're just like, oh, I'm old.
Yeah, like I've been listening to the same fucking record for 10 years.
I've got some that are even a whole longer than that.
No, I mean, I'm still playing it like it's a new release.
Oh, it's the underground metal scene is weird like that. It definitely distorts a sense of time because some of these bands will be putting album after album after album out like a yearly release, like a goddamn video game. Damn. And then you have other bands that'll put like one album out every like 7 years.
Cool.
Yeah, Tool's a prime example of that. There's some other ones like in the stuff that I'm into. It's like, wow, those guys put out another album. No shit. They're still alive. Okay.
Did you did you guys hear that Maynard James Keenan, the lead singer of Tool, when they played a live show in Florida? Did you see that, Doc?
Yeah, I saw it, and the thing is, I'm sitting there going, he's mocking everybody right here. He's not mocking, like I'm all in favor of this. He's literally mocking everyone.
I feel like that's
everyone
just who
involved.
He is. Yeah.
He hates the LA world just as much as he hates the hyper conservative.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, seriously, he made a song about California falling into the ocean and telling everyone in LA learn to swim.
He also made a song about, well, I can't even say it on YouTube because they'll get this stream taken down. But yeah,
some of the stuff I've said on other streams, particularly my buddy Pope streams when we're talking the metal scene, some of the stuff we've said haven't gotten that struck down.
Oh, okay.
And well, I'm not going to repeat it here because I don't want to offend you. It was. Let's this way. It's one of the bands one of my favorite bands is this band from Sweden called Marduk, as in the Babylonian god of war Marduk. Some of their older song titles are, well, just billboards for blasphemy.
Gotcha.
And
I mean, hey, look,
no
that's
bones about it. Like straight up, like, wow. So tell us how you really feel. The level of things.
Yeah.
And we've rattled off those song titles. So, I mean, if you're talking about like hooker with a penis, I don't think that would be a problem to be said on YouTube.
Yeah, right. No, I think it's maybe it's that one. There's one where he basically talks about him being either sexually abused or molested or something.
The prison grape song.
Prison. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, he's got stuff like that, but yeah, no, I mean, it's interesting because for me, with a lot of those metal artists, like, is as much as I do hold my faith in very high regard, and as much as that is like, a part of me, like my Christianity or whatever, I can still listen to those bands and still accept the like absolute artistic power of some of these artists. You know what I mean? Like there are just some bands that I'm like they're brilliant. There's one band called Thy Art Is Murder, I believe,
I've
and
heard
they
of
are
them.
super openly like fuck everything about Christianity and that shit is nonsense and blah blah. And I can at least still appreciate their art for what it is, even though I vehemently disagree with them. So, but
Well,
that's metal,
it's
man.
also about how much art you can find in a song title called "Fist Fucking God's Planet."
There you go.
That's one of
There
the
you go.
mild ones.
Yeah, so I mean, there are some where I'm like, okay, I'm drawing the line here. Like, I don't really listen to Cannibal Corpse shit. That's just like that's not me.
But here's the thing with
Um,
those guys, all day I've met them and I've hung out with them. Great bunch of guys. The singer's a big fucking. Essentially, he's a nerd jock.
oh, really?
Big football guy, but also loves
Wow.
World of Warcraft. Like,
Huh.
there's video clips out there where somebody asks him a question, about what they do on like the tour bus when they're like touring Europe or whatever. And he's talking about this, and this, and then he starts talking about World of Warcraft and goes off on a tangent for like 15 minutes talking about World of Warcraft.
That's rad, dude. I love it.
But all their lyrics are mostly gore. There's nothing religious
Yeah.
about it. Every once in a while they will, but most of it's just straight up just horror gore
Yeah.
type
That's
stuff.
fair.
There are some bands out there that, yes, some of them do get silly, like, Morbid Angel. They're, using the Necronomicon as a reference. It's like,
Yeah.
that's just a literary book, right? There's nothing real about. Okay, you do know. Okay, I got you then. So, so they had like a Lovecraftian theme to it.
Yeah.
You know.
Speaking of Pope, I think he says I like a lot of artists I disagree with. Good art is good art regardless. And Pope, just in case you were wondering, I know you're painting some Luna wolves. I think you said earlier in the chat. I'm building some custodes tonight. So you and I are both very similar. We're building and painting tonight. So, but
Yeah, Luna
yeah,
Wolves. That's what he said he was painting.
nice. But yeah, it's interesting because there are artists that I can do that with in terms of music, and I can do that to an extent with comic books, but I think because comic books have such a like the characters and the stories are so much more meaningful to me, I find it harder to disassociate
Well,
myself from art with
music
artists
doesn't
there.
have music has genres. There is no
Yeah,
and music genres, yeah, they have their characters for sure.
yeah.
Some good, some well, yeah, Varg Vikernes is a person. I'll leave it at that. Lunatic. And but there is no, like, Wolverine's a character that's been established since the mid 70s. Spider-Man's been a character who's been established since the late 60s. These characters have been around for so long, and there's certain things that are just core to that character and that character's personality that there's things you can't change. And when you go to change that is when things start really just going off the rails before the train even leaves the station.
Yeah. And sometimes not even change, like sometimes the book, like I've read books where the character is just like just bland, like it just sounds like every other character, but the lecture in the book that's like trying to tell the reader you're not a good person if you don't agree with this book, and so sometimes they don't even necessarily have to change the character, but they just put this like
It changes voice.
nonsensical, they change, like the tone of the book and the storyline and stuff like
And
that.
Pope's right, spot on right there. It's harder with comics. The lyrics of a song are just part of the piece, whereas comic characters are the central pillar of the book.
There you go, Pope. Yeah.
I mean, it's as I've said earlier, Marvel, for whatever reason, like, especially in more recent years, likes using Peter Parker as a punching bag.
Yeah.
And that's, but the problem is because they think that's what they did back in the 60s and 70s and 80s. And it's like, no, they didn't do it purposely just to pick on Peter Parker like you guys seem to like to do. He was the everyman. He was a superhero that had to deal with the same problems the factory worker did.
Yeah.
or had to deal with the same problems, and in some ways almost identical problems as a beat cop or a construction worker.
They also just kind of wanted to make him, they did it for drama.
Yeah.
They did it because it added drama to the book. And they were actually interested in creating drama that wasn't for drama's sake, because it was about putting Peter through the ringer so he'd come out a stronger hero, a better role model, a better person as a result.
I would say in some ways Spider-Man's more of an inspirational character than even Superman. Because he does have those flaws. He has been through, in some cases, worse shit than Superman's ever gone through, and has still continued to be the genuinely decent human being that he is.
Mm-hmm.
And the best part, too, is they've shown multiple times in the books over the decades that every once in a while, Peter Parker's a dick. Just like all of us can be at times. He's not always this perfect person. Every once in a while, he's got his moments of, leave me the fuck alone. I'm tired. In a lot of cases, that's what it was. Either he was tired or sick or he was hurt.
Well, if you actually read through a lot of those early issues of Spider-Man, like Flash Thompson wasn't the bully. Peter was just an asshole.
Yeah.
Like they tried to, invite him out to things, to get him involved. And he was so self-conscious that he thought that everyone was like gonna pull a fucking carry on him that he acted like a jackass to them.
I gotta go back and read those then. That's funny.
I mean, yeah, but at the same time, in fairness, he was kind of the nerdy everyman.
Yeah.
And in fairness, well, we used to shove those motherfuckers in lockers.
He was the insecure kind of dweeby.
Yes.
Like type, I guess. But I mean, I can definitely see where you're coming from, Imperatus. I don't know. I never really resonated with Spider-Man as much as I did Superman. I think just because I always wanted to aspire to be like Superman, even though because he did feel so inhuman, or not inhuman, but just because he felt like this ideal to strive to. Right. So
maybe better wasn't the appropriate term. Maybe just different, because it's
like more
different kinds of inspiration.
Yeah,
Superman. Here's a better way to put it: Superman's aspirational, where Spider-Man's inspirational. You aspire to be Superman,
right?
But the trials and tribulations of all the things Peter Parker's gone through over the decades, that's inspirational. That someone can literally get beaten damn near to death, and get up and go to work the next day.
Mm-hmm. It inspires you to want to be like him, and it inspires you to say, hey, well, if Spidey is just like me, then maybe I can do it too. Maybe when I get shit tossed my way, maybe I'll be able to get up and go back to work the next day as well. Whereas you aspire to have the same patience, understanding, morals, values, and just fortitude as Superman to be the best person that you can be.
I'm also not going to lie. Some of my favorite moments of Superman have been those times when he pretty much goes Goku on someone. It doesn't happen very often, but when he does, it's like, oh, good Lord.
Oh, it's so awesome. It is so
like against
awesome.
Darkseid or something, and he just beats the living shit out of him. It's like,
I love it.
And you can tell Superman actually enjoys it too. There's that little spark in him, because there's that one line in the one animated movie. He's like, he's like, I have to treat like everybody like they're made out of paper, but with you, I don't, and I can finally cut loose. And he actually gets like almost like a little bit of a smirk before he just like it moves so fast it's almost a teleport, and just clocks him and then just beats the living shit out of him.
I mean, yeah, imagine living your whole life where you are just holding back. You're constantly being kind of you're kind of constantly
on eggshells with everything you do,
because you're not sure,
touching people or objects or anything.
But yeah, I think he was talking to me. It was like Dark Side or Mongol or something like
somebody
that.
like that, where he's along the same lines. Is like, I can cut loose with you and not feel
Yeah.
bad about it.
That's one of my favorite animated moments. It's so awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's so weird too, because to actually see that the ultimate Boy Scout character literally just in almost go Wolverine on somebody without like claws.
Mm,
Like, and
yeah,
there's been
right.
some times when he's really gone off and just beaten the living shit out of someone, like as only Superman can do.
Yeah, yeah.
If we're talking though about characters that one of my I think that's the reason why I really like Quicksilver as a
Mhm.
character,
Mm.
because of that one issue where the therapy issue of X Factor, where he explains why he's such a fucking asshole. And it's because it feels like he can never operate at his speed,
Yeah, that's right.
because it's like everyone is that person at the ATM that has never used an ATM before in their life,
Right.
can't
Mhm.
figure out how, and that's every waking moment of every single day
Oh,
for him,
I would go
all the
insane.
time. I would, and it explains why he's such a fucking dick.
And it makes
Mhm.
sense. It's absolutely 100% logical, because even the various Flashes have made comments on that.
Yeah,
But that
but
also goes to show the quality of their character as a person, that they're
yes,
not, you know, but I think that's also too where all the joking comes in. Like if
yeah,
they
Mhm.
weren't quipping, or at least Wally West anyways wasn't quipping and being a little bit of a smartass, he'd lose his goddamn mind. For the same reason, because like I said, the Flashes have made comments about having everything around them moving at such a slow speed, and then the looks they get, like they're out eating and they have like literally a tray of hamburgers,
yeah.
because that's their normal caloric intake, and they're not in costume doing this, and people are looking at them like, what the fuck?
That's my dream. Is just to eat all the hamburgers and never gain a pound. Or actually get more muscular because you're feeding your body
Yeah,
all
you're
the
literally,
nutrients that you need. Yeah, you would be
yeah.
yeah.
And it also is a testament to that. People are like, oh, Flash and the Quicksilver, they're the same. No, not really. And it's not even because of editorial decisions. It's also just the way not just the personality of the two characters, but at most, all we've really seen Quicksilver do is run fast.
Mm,
Yeah.
And that's really about it. And maybe punch at super speed.
yeah.
You've never actually seen him get creative with what he can do. And the question then becomes, are his powers actually at that level?
Where he can do like go back in time or go
Not,
through
not even to that,
multiverses and stuff.
not
Like
even to that extent of things, but we've seen, how the Flash can rotate his arms so fast he can create
mhm.
wind,
Whirlwinds.
Yeah.
whirlwinds and whatnot. You know,
Well, I think that with Quicksilver, oh, excuse me. I think Quicksilver's just not that creative.
could be that too.
Yeah.
I think that's what it really comes down to. If anyone actually, and I think that's part of his character, is that he's really not that creative with his powers.
Yeah.
And I think there's been a couple of times where people have kind of said, with being able to move this fast, you should be able to do so much more stuff. But he's like, I don't want it, kind of like that one terrible issue of Spider-Man and the X-Men. You can rewrite DNA sequences on the fly. You can cure cancer. I don't want to cure cancer. I want to turn people into dinosaurs.
Right. That is
He
the
doesn't.
whole, I don't want to do good. I want to be evil.
Yeah,
Mhm.
well, in this case, it's I don't want to do all this creative stuff with my powers. I just want to run fast. And I feel like that's where he's at and what he wants to do. And I mean, I guess it's kind of cool.
It is what it is. I mean, to be honest, that's one thing I have a problem with DC is they have a power set. And it's like, oh, we got to make sure that if this character's popular, he gets a family. You know, how many different Flashes are there that are or are not related to Barry Allen in some way? Look how big the Bat family's gotten over the years. Look how big, you know, it's the Green Lantern stuff. It's like, okay, it was cool when it was like the 4 of them. And then, you know, every once in a while you'd see one of the alien ones, like Kilowog or even the Guardians. And then it turned into like, wow, we're always showing how big the Green Lantern Corps is, even though it was never really talked about all that often in the Green Lantern books.
Well, I'm pretty sure I could go on to a rant for about 3 days about how much I hate all of the knockoff, you know, cheap Xerox copies of every character at every company. But that would take us 3 days, and I think MVP has to leave us.
Unfortunately, yes. But I was going to say, Doc, at first I thought you were going to say I could take 3 days talking about the knockoff versions of all the different Lantern Corps if they're not the Green Lantern. And I was like, oh, no.
Oh, I hate the lanterns, too. I hate all, like, look, I'm sorry, your Pride Lantern is, I have no interest in it. Having one lantern was acceptable. Everything else is you doing something dumb.
I'm gonna disagree with you on that only because I did enjoy the Jeff Johns run of Green Lantern, at least all the way up until Blackest Night. After that, it started getting a little stupid.
This is what you always end up with. There's the law of unintended consequences kicking in, where, okay, fine, cool, one-off story. Fine. The problem is, once you realize how terrible it will be in the long term, that's why you don't do it. That's why they didn't do Krakoa and the endless mutant fucking Orgy Island plant clones. Why they never did that before. Why they didn't just... Because you could have done Mighty Morphin Power Rangers with the X-Men like they're doing now a million times throughout the years, but you didn't because the unintended consequences. I think you saw the same thing with the reason why you never opened up the school to more than a handful of useful mutants that are for Strike Force until Grant Morrison. And then everything we've had since then is the law of unintended consequences from Grant Morrison deciding, yeah, you know what the school should have? A bunch of useless fucking mutants and be a safe haven for everybody. Bitch, the Morlocks lived under your fucking building for like 30 years. And
if not longer.
Yeah, you didn't think to invite them up? No. Why? Because they didn't serve you a purpose. There was an implied rule of, I give you a free place to live and a bunch of cool toys and all kinds of luxury. You go fight my private war for me. And do you know how good iBoy is at fighting your private war for you? Not freaking very good. But Wolverine is. Cyclops is. That Shark Girl isn't.
Yeah, Grant Morrison definitely added a lot of characters that their mutation was pretty much just physical.
Yes. And everybody else since then has done the same. But he also opened the school to all of them. There was an implied trade. You fight my war for me, I will essentially take care of you. If you can't fight my war for me, I'm not taking care of you. Yeah. Now the most useless mutants on the planet, like fucking Beak, are in that mansion too.
Yeah. That's who I was thinking.
And everything since then has gone downhill because you got away from the general implied premise. The implied premise with the Lantern Corps is it is a unique thing throughout the universe. When you eliminate the uniqueness of it, it stops being cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That classic phrase, if everyone is special, no one is, you know.
Yeah. But on that note, I think that is a good way to wrap up tonight. Both my guests have to get on to bigger and better things, or whatever the hell you got going on.
I was going to say, who says it's bigger and better? This is pretty fun.
Being a smart ass. Appreciate you guys coming on as always. It was really, really good conversation. Again, as always, we seem to have those frighteningly enough.
Yeah.
And so Doc, all I know with you that you got coming up is Comics Aficionado on Saturday.
Yes, I'm actually not sure if we're doing it this oh no, I don't think we're doing it this Saturday because Wes
Holiday?
is on vacation.
Ah.
He has a pre-recorded Comics Aficionados that is coming up on Saturday.
That's right. Yeah.
Because
Well,
I was not free to participate in it. So
gotcha.
I
Gotcha.
don't
Still
know.
waiting for the Doc is right shirt to make an appearance.
Yep. So I appreciate the platform, sir.
No, I always, man. You're pretty much just, whether you like it or not, you're probably my co-host at this point.
All right. Channel mascot again.
Doc is just going to start showing up. Well, Josh McDonald also started a new channel. So, Doc, you got to get as his co-host quick before he fills that spot with someone else.
I know, right? I'm gonna have to go and I'll go and tempt him with my masculine wiles.
There you go. Yeah.
I was gonna say the amount of I could add to the snark level of your show.
Mm-hmm.
MVP, what you got coming up, brother?
Oh gosh, I've been delving into shorts recently just because they aren't as much of a time suck, and they're a lot of fun to just like get really quick, like fun videos out there, whether it's covering news or Warhammer lore or comic book stuff. Like, just it's. I'm gonna try and delve into a little bit, not like Fatal J. Don't worry, I'm not doing that, but it's an interesting concept, so I've been delving into that a little bit more, seeing what that's like. And then I'll have Sunday night SmackDown this weekend with myself and Aaron Sparrow, Josh, and Jesse Blaze Snyder, and we'll talk all the news that's coming out, like the Image stuff, and Diamond. We'll probably also go over some tweets within the industry because we always like see what comic creators are tweeting out, and sometimes it's absolute insanity. So yeah, we'll have a fun discussion over there probably Sunday night. So, but thank you again for having me tonight, man. This is always super fun.
Always.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're one of the people on the list that I will mention to that I'm doing this when I'm doing it. If you could make it, excellent.
Yeah, hell yeah.
At this point right now, that list is pretty much you and Nick. A couple of there's a few others that are kind of on there too, but yeah, it's definitely you and Nick's. Every time I do this, you're on the list of let me see what they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, keep me on there because this is always fun, and I appreciate it because you guys are always a wealth of knowledge as well. Because now I've got like 3 tabs opened up of books that I need to either buy or reread. So thanks to you guys,
Yeah,
that always happens.
Yeah, it sounded like me and a buddy of mine, like whenever we were scrolling through the various, model shops and sending each other links like, oh, hey, they have this. Sweet. And fuck you at the same time for showing me that they have it.
Every time.
It's like, thank you for showing me where to spend my money. That's appreciated.
Yeah, you motherfucker. I can't, thank you, but come on, man. I'm trying to save money here.
I know you're totally going to go pick up that Mosaic now.
Oh yeah, that's absolutely. I'm gonna go find the trade for that. Yeah,
I'm gonna find it at a 9.8 Doc, and I'm gonna
yeah, you're gonna find it at 9.9, and it's still gonna be cover price.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that getting it CGC'd actually makes it lose more value.
It's devalues it.
Yes.
But yeah, as always, appreciate you guys being here. Appreciate the chat. Fizzchozo, Soul Assassin, Pope Metallicus, anybody else, Yule Carter, who also one of these days you'll have to get you on here and you can give us your insight onto our grousing when it comes to a retailer side. Because, you know, like he made a comment about something, the kids who may be readers really like Miles. So it's the people who, I think, if anything, in that case, it's probably the kids who their first introduction to Spider-Man may have been Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, potentially I could see that.
So, but anyways, guys, thanks for coming and hanging out and sharing your thoughts with us, and we'll be doing this again in the near future. So have a good one. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you all. Later.